Imagine this for a moment. You've had a fight with your partner, and you probably go onto the internet and say that this was the specific situation that we were in, and this is what we want to do. You go ahead and suggest some very bullshit solution to your partner because some commenter on your Reddit post probably confirmed the kind of bias that you have, the kind of toxicity that resides within you, which means that you have paid more attention to what they have to say and what those people have to say about your relationship than your partner itself. You tell that to your partner that, hey, I heard this on Reddit, this was probably true. Your partner asked you to fuck off, and then the relationship is over. The problem with government is that they simplify the kind of solutions that you're able to get by the rise of your ability to converse and express yourself on social media. They have two big claims. One, that there is some discourse and it can help you to access some solutions. But second, there is a large scale institutional impact. Before I build the comparative and extend on it, I want to report these two things. First, on discourse and access to some solutions, three things. One, trend hopping is a really bad thing, panel. Note that accountability on trends is really hard to guarantee because content creation happens on such a large extent due to the rise that it happens on a much faster rate than your ability to regulate this content, which means that by the time that you are able to identify this content is inherently bad in nature, it has spread to the extent that it can cause a lot of harm. Intervention pump for this is simple. When there are rumors on social media, the ability it takes for people to like debunk those myths, etc., takes much more time than those myths to accidentally spread. I think the second thing is that this also leads to a variety of opinions, right? Which means that if a large amount of people are giving different opinions onto the kind of situation that you're facing, one, if they go ahead and probably assume that these people are extremely vulnerable in nature and this is government framing, then this variety of opinion can often confuse you even more further, right? Because now you believe that there are certain ways that certain people have it better than me or have had it better than me, and they probably have made it out, but I can't because of their situations, etc., right? Or because they had one thing that I did not, right? All of this means that because there is a variety of opinion, you're more likely to get confused rather than to internalize and probably introspect as to what your problem specifically is and what other factors control it, and rather than just outbursting on social media, right? But thirdly, there is no control over the algorithm, which means that what kind of audiences my post will reach is extremely like contingent upon the kind of pushes it is able to get, right? Which means that because of this rise, it can go to anyone, it can go into any community. Note that internet has very weird communities. There are communities on Reddit that fetishize the idea of misogyny in of itself, which means that it can probably reach to the kind of audience that I did not expect it to reach to. Which is why you see that there is a trend of like Instagram comments being so rude to people who inherently did choose to speak out or inherently did choose to look over their insecurities and post pictures of themselves, right? Which is why this insensitivity or desensitization that government talks about is extremely bad, because this desensitization happens like symmetrically to all kind of communities because of this large engagement that happens because of this rise in the kind of specific kind of content, right? Which means that if a lot of people are doing it, a lot of people also become targets to the kind of people who do not want such people to speak out, right? Which means that things like patriarchal comments, etc., happen much more usual than you probably expect them to. I think then the second push is that you have institutional impacting. One, because now you have a lot of people that are experiencing such experiences, there is a loss of credibility that you have, because companies are now more likely to probably think that you're making excuses or you're probably riding onto this trend and like applying for leaves, etc., because you think that this is something that is much more accessible in nature, and hence because of these desensitization, the sensitivity around these issues is not specifically catered to as it would have been absence the rise of it. But second, this also causes simplification, right? Which means that institutions are more likely to simplify the idea of this mental health, this vulnerability existing or this frustration existing, because they can now think that, oh, probably this just exists as another comment as some other people are commenting like on social media, right? Which is not something that is uniquely catering to my company, my behavior in it, right? Excuse me. But lastly, people also have inherent biases, right? Just because I have commented something against my boss does not mean that I have the ability to now go ahead and ask my boss to stop asking me to or giving me more work, right? My boss controls my paycheck, which means that even if I have given some outburst on social media, it is very less likely to trickle down to my actual personal life or in my work life, because I still have to like face the situation every day, because there is no tangible solution that social media can institutionalize emotionally provide as to what they want you to believe. I think the comparative is then simple. It's twofold. One, you have a family, you have friends, touch some grass. But second, social media in itself is just better on our side when there's no rise. One, in terms of family, friends, and touching grass, I have four things. First, your biological composition is made in a manner that when you spend time with people who are proximate to you, there are certain neurotoxins within you that trigger. This looks like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, right? Because of the proximity that you feel towards them, you are by nature allowed to feel better because you spend some time with them. But second, there is some social expectation and narratives that happen, right? So things like family always stays together. There is no I in teamwork, etc. A positive environment in the workplace, which means that people often in society are incentivized to work together. You just have to speak up to them. But I think thirdly is that there is direct benefit and incentives that people have by staying together. Probably having a split in their property, probably working together, probably marrying each other and having children together, right? There is direct benefit in your close proximity for you to go ahead and probably engage in discourse with these people inherently when you feel frustration. I think that not everyone has to be a really bad piece of shit as humans. I think we do have things towards basic empathy towards each other, which allow us to incentivize and work together. But the speaking up has to happen. Why does this not happen? If I prove that, I'll win this debate. Before that, I'll take a POI.
This insensitivity and desensitization happens because social stigma exists on your side of the world. At the point in time in which more and more people talk about it, the stigma lowers on our side of the world. No. So what is the solvency exactly on your side?
Thank you. If social stigma exists on our side, I think on your side it's even worse, because if the stigma can amplify when you talk about it on a larger scale, people can just either generalize this too much, which means that they don't anyways understand its specific situation. But more importantly, because now everyone is probably trend hopping and you can also get unverifiable information or just bad targeting from other communities, this solution is just not a good one anyway. I think social media in itself on our side is better, because when you have selective people reaching out inherently, people are more sensitive towards these ideas, and you have lesser community backlash, or likely to get lesser community backlash, because you have a unique situation that you're speaking out on. But I think the extension then quite simple is that on comparative, you often get distance from your close collections. Three reasons. One, there is an immediate and tempting solution in the form of your phone, which is right there. Your online relationship is probably still texting you, which means that this tempting solution distances you from the close benefits that you can inherently get. People who are more proximate and factor more into the kind of vulnerabilities and frustrations that you face. Second, because now you have more trust towards media because there is desensitizing in nature, I think then it just happens in a bad kind of desensitizing, which means that you find it in the immediate solution because this rise is rewarding you to go ahead and do so. This is extremely bad, but it also does not work out for you in the long term. We think that you should oppose it. For all those reasons, vote for Rob.